Hi everybody, this is a blue and red Arcane Bombardment deck that wants to reuse our powerful spells and wants to lean on Jace from Phyrexia All Will Be One as kind of a way to draw cards, slow down our opponent, and act as a backup win condition if we can get his counters high enough to mill our opponents out of the game. Now we're running a familiar Proliferate package here. We've got Geistflame Reservoir, Experimental Augury, and Prologue to Phyresis as ways to draw cards, ways to activate Arcane Bombardment, and as kind of a payoff for casting so many spells over and over again. Geistflame is also flexible in that we can look at an extra card off the top of our deck if we happen to be in top deck mode. We've also got some cheap instants and sorceries to survive the early few turns of the game, running 2 copies of Big Score to push us over into 5 and 6 mana territory while drawing some cards, and then we're running Burn Down the House to make devils and wipe the board, along with 3 copies of Invoke the Winds to steal some of the better artifacts that we can find in Standard, and just take the best creatures that our opponents put out. Of course, we're running 4 Arcane Bombardment, and then a slate of Is It Colored dual lands, including 4 Xander's Lounge and 2 copies of Blast Zone to take care of all those other permanents we can't quite destroy, while taking advantage of the Proliferate effects in our deck to add counters onto this card for free. So let's get over and see a few of these games on the Ranked Standard ladder. I'll be with you for some commentary, but as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. All right, 3 lands. Some early interaction, let's get into it. Should let us stack up our graveyard on the early side. Get some things ready for Arcane Bombardment. I can't tell what our opponent's name is supposed to mean. I feel like I'm missing something. Let's get this prologue going. Start the show off, get our poison counters on the opponent. Make the payoff that much bigger for repeatable proliferate effects. Dragon Engine, okay. So we can expect to see a Mishra coming up soon. Those tend to go hand in hand. You don't often see one without the other. Let's just pass here. We can see what the opponent decides to do before firing off an instant spell. And, oh, well, we think we jumped the gun here a little bit. Let's take a look with Experimental Augury now and just see if we've got any cheap... There, okay. There we go. Always tricky with the timing of these instants. Do you wait and take the full brunt of the attack, or not? We're going to play with fire this, or at least attempt to. There it goes. Sometimes it's worth waiting until the end of the opponent's turn and see exactly what cards they're going to play after the attack, but that play with fire wasn't going to kill much else, so good to take care of that card when we could. All right, I think we want to add to our Blast Zone just a little bit. I think they play mid-rangey cards in there. And let's use this window to get Arcane Bombardment down and hopefully dodge and Invoke Despair, which they've definitely got the mana for. Bitter Reunion, though, so they're going to do a little draw and discard. And I see a Cityscape Leveler has made its way to the graveyard. If they can manage to reanimate that and attack, they will be able to take care of Bombardment. So they might be leaning on that card as their all-purpose permanent removal. Let's get Geistflame Reservoir down. That's going to go nicely with Bombardment. Opponent's sitting at 6 mana. Let's start Bombardment off with a Fading Hope to Mishra here. And we get a Prologue to Phyresis. Just going to draw us a card, get our opponent up to 3 poison counters. We've got this Consider here to use on our opponent's turn. Let's see what they can do. So they will repair and recharge. That gives them a Power Stone and puts the Leveler into play, but they miss the cast trigger, so they won't be able to do anything with it. I see, but Bitter Reunion gives it haste. Let's Consider then in response, before they get to attacks and get the trigger, to destroy our stuff. All right, Prologue and Experimental Inquiry. Well, I think just Lightning Strike is the best thing out of that pile. Let's submit. Okay. Well, Burn Down the House, that can go directly in the graveyard. Let's go ahead and then Fading Hope this back to their hand. So it's still around, but they can't attack with it, and they can't get that trigger unless they draw one more mana. Let's get Jace down here. That should leave us enough to do some other things. Full price Jace. Let's see, we got Fading Hope, Consider, Burn Down the House. Let's put a few more things in there. Alright, a land, a bombardment. We pick up Invoke the Winds. There was another Burn Down the House that went to the graveyard that time. Let's give it back to the opponent. Okay. Well, they are up to 8. Bitter Reunion. Okay. They're going to do some more drawing and discarding. Kind of surprised they didn't just go for the leveler there. They're going to hit Repair and Recharge. That's going to reanimate the leveler out of their graveyard. And they will attempt to do the same Give It Haste trick. So let's see if we can pull up Fading Hope now, or at least find it with one of these spells. Alright, we're going to have to do some digging. I don't think the order matters on these too much. They're all going to kind of act independently of one another. Get some counters going on the reservoir. Abrade, that could work. Augury for Invoke the Winds. Should one of these slip through? Yes, please, counters. Lightning Strike goes to the face. And I think... Well, yeah, going back to the hand's not good, but destroying it is kind of the same since they can unearth it. Let's try to bounce it. That may have been the wrong thing. See, if they unearth it, they can attack with haste anyway. If they cast it, they get the cast trigger and destroy something anyway. So we may have to let Bombardment go and just depend on an Invoke the Winds. But, you know, let's just activate Bombardment now. Reservoir is getting so high, I think we just need to try and end this if we can. Let's see if we can get enough counters on there and just get the biggest reservoir I've ever seen. Or maybe second biggest, I don't know. Yeah, Invoke here. Let's just see where we end up. Consider. Sure. And finally, Invoke the Winds. Steals a Power Stone. Oh, and it untaps us for it. Untaps it, excuse me. Let's put some counters to good use and hit the opponent for 18. All right. Good game. Okay, back here for another one. Looking to do a little bit of proliferation, some Arcane Bombardment. Of course, we've got new/old friend Jace from Phyrexia. We pick up and Invoke the Winds. Well, let's get Blast Zone down right now. Kind of want to make sure the rest of the lands that we play all have some kind of blue capability. And let's get Prologue going. Kind of setting ourselves up so that if we proliferate in the future, we've got some seeds planted, as it were. We'll get a quick Jace down. Just give him a little plus till we figure out what the opponent is up to. Opponent doing some reading. They're going to start off with a wedding announcement. Shivan Reef is a good draw for us. Gets us one blue pip closer to Invoke the Winds time. And I think we'll just keep plussing Jace here. If we can get our proliferation stuff going, we might be able to mill our opponent out. I don't know. We've got so many Burn Down the House in hand. I kind of don't want to use them to draw cards yet. We might be able to make him survive if our opponent starts going wide here and we want to wipe the board. All right. Alright, let's draw with Consider. Blue land is great. Just thinking about, not the Phyrexian Obliterator, the Vindicator. That's the one. The mono white one. If they happen to play that, then being able to steal that is going to be nice for us. Let's make some devils here and decrease the size of one of those tokens. No attacks, as these devils are just set up to kind of stall, act as blockers for Jace. If we want to wipe this board, I would really love for our opponent to overextend into it, with some real cards, instead of just the byproduct tokens that they have from Wedding Announcement. Opponent pulling out all the stops as we get hit with Annex Sentry and Lay Down Arms to remove 2 of these devil tokens. Jace still protected here. All right, 1 announcement has flipped, so we got a number of 2/2s on the board. We can plus Jace and protect him from a round of Burn Down the House if we want to go there, and then we'll only have to deal with 1 token from the last Wedding Announcement.
Predictable and uninteresting.
Our devil will just point that at the opponent. Plus Jace on nothing. And we've got... Now, Arena, why would you tap that way? Oh, wait, there's the Vindicator. All right. They can't help themselves, these monocolor decks. All right, definitely stealing that. Please and thank you. I don't know why Arena loves to keep the Blast Zone untapped, even if we can't do anything with it. I was hoping to keep Play with Fire up. But everything's coming up Millhouse anyway. We got a Vindicator. All right, they're going to destroy it. Well, they had to use their own card on their own card. Can't be too mad about that one. Welcoming Vampire showing up a little bit late. All these wedding servants, wedding guests have already arrived. And we get another Burn Down the House. Well, let's start drawing here with Jace.
I will clear your mind.
We pick up a Fading Hope. All right. Well, I think it's time. Let's burn down the house.
The knowledge we acquired is
Opponent not going to be drawing enough to make Jace's mill too useful. And I think we can lean on the rest of what we've got here to finish this game. I suppose we could have also used Abrade and a Play with Fire on the Vampire, but... C'est la vie. All right. And that was too much. Good game. All right. Starting off with a 2-lander. I think we can handle this one. We've got Experimental Augury to go find... Oh, wait a minute. Good choice, opponent. They immediately take the Reservoir. Probably one of the best payoff cards in here. I know. I'm saying that in a deck with Arcane Bombardment in it. But it's sneaky. Oh, Pilfer. Are we going to get discarded out of the game here? Anyway, people still don't respect the Geistflame. It'll stick around and get way too many counters, whereas Bombardment, everybody knows by now. You gotta remove that one. Okay, Pilfer number 2. What do you take? Takes big score. Let's use Augury. Well, I suppose we'll just keep hitting our land drops. We've got Jaces, we've got things to draw back into this, so as long as we just keep working our way up, hitting our land drops, I think we're going to be okay. Opponent hasn't played anything too threatening yet to follow up on their discard plan. Let's go ahead and consider then. We're fine on lands. Experimental Augury. We can go ahead and use this. We might be able to find a Reservoir or... Well, there's Bombardment. We'll take it, but I'm not confident it will stick around long enough. From our hand, I mean. You know I am windmill slamming that onto the table as soon as we get enough mana. Any more discard from the opponent here. Following it up with a Trespasser. Perfect complement to Pilfer. Not too many creatures from us, though, so they're just going to have to feast on some of these instants. And we will get hit straight away for 4 with the Bankbuster. Now, we're going to have to consider getting this Trespasser off the board. Let's go ahead and do it now. I would like a few things left in our own graveyard to use Arcane Bombardment with. Shakedown heavy. All right. The solid game plan of Mono Black. We get hit with Dreams of Steel and Oil, but there's nothing left to dream about for our opponent. Oh. We get Invoke the Winds. Let's get our Blast Zone down. And let's Bombardment now. So we can control how much damage we take from the Shakedown Heavy. Let's try and get Invoke the Winds off next turn and block. And not block. Untap the Shakedown Heavy. You know what I mean. Alright, Shieldred comes down. We're going to take 2 from that. That leaves us with an Abrade, perhaps, for the Bankbuster. And I think Invoke is going to target Shieldred now. We will cast Augury for sure. Let's see if we can get another spell to follow up with later. Ooh. I mean, keep on invoking those winds. And we will put a counter on Blast Zone from the Proliferate. Excuse me. All right, well, I think we're set up decently. Again, we can control taking damage from the Shakedown Heavy for as long as we need to. And we've got Abrade for this Bankbuster. Trying to pull up Invoke Despair. Maybe we can steal that heavy for ourselves if we get lucky. Shieldred's Edict takes care of herself. Do we pass or do we do this now? Let's pass. What do we got? Invoke, burn down, a couple of card draw spells. Let's destroy that. Just see what we get here before I make this decision. Looks like they're gonna draw. Alright, let's Inquiry and let's burn down the house to destroy the creature. Augury will find us a Prologue. I think we can put another counter on Blast Zone for free. Abrade takes care of the Bankbuster. And finally, the heavy trigger. We can just decline that because it's gone now. Would have been nice to steal that, but, you know, we work with what we're given here. If the opponent would like to follow up with a Shieldred now, though, I will gladly take that. Alternate Art Liliana is here, making us discard. Happy to oblige. Kind of been holding on to that mountain. Let's trigger Bombardment with this Prologue. We will consider an Augury to get some cards. And let's just wipe the board. Not messing around with devils just yet.
I'm not interested in dying.
Augury is nice. Keep doing that. And let's see. Let's keep Blast Zone where it is for now. Oh, Reservoir is perfect. Start our opponent off with a nice poison counter here, and I think we can just go to our turn. Let's get Reservoir going. Rather have that than secondary Bombardment at this point. We've got an Augury to activate Bombardment with on our opponent's turn as they soul transfer back a Trespasser. Now, can you play it? Ah, you can. Okay. So it is night, so they're going to choose 2 things. I think in response to this trigger, we may try to save whatever they take. Let's see if we can randomly pluck one of those. Nope, we miss. But I think that is okay. We're going to get a couple of hits with these Auguries and be able to wipe that Graveyard Glutton away as our Reservoir creeps ever upward. I will take a Prologue too. Let's deselect the Blast Zone. More Invoke the Winds is always fun. I think we can keep that Abrade too. Gonna go Consider over Big Score. And finally, the Glutton will find a couple of things from our graveyard. All right, well, with 8 counters on the reservoir here, I think we are safe. Just do a little extra card draw. I think we're kind of in a race with ourselves now as to which method we're going to use to get our opponent out of this game. Let's hit play with fire. Bombardment picks up. We've got 3 auguries under here. All right, well, Devils is going to be 3 damage. Many, many triggers. Lightning Strike for some additional damage. We'll just submit all that. There's the Devils. Yep, we'll just keep Blast Zone right where it is. Another Augury, that's fine. Sure, at this point, I think we know where this is headed. Jace, we will keep on top, and Geistflame Reservoir. Let's power that up to 18. Good game. Okay, looking at this one, we've got 3 lands. Can start off pretty easily into a turn 3 Geistflame Reservoir. Xander's Lounge, always willing to show up on the early side and fix our mana problems. Play with Fire, a great draw, as our opponent looks to be on some kind of black-flavored toxic list. We will remove that at our earliest convenience. See what our opponent's got for turn 2, as we will consider whether or not to do Geistflame or Jace on our next turn. Battlefly Swarm, okay. Flying can get Death Touch. I think we're safe, though, to get the Geistflame Reservoir down on the board. We really want this down as soon as we can. An early way to get a return on our investment as we progress through the rest of the game. Morbid Opportunist to go along with Battlefly Swarm here in Diamond 4. A very interesting place to be playing. All right, well, we pick up land number 5. Couple of options for our turn. Don't need to exile anything just yet. If we Augury, we can get 2 counters onto the reservoir, which isn't enough to take care of the Opportunist. So I think we're going to Jace here. I think full price Jace makes sense.
Phyrexia showed me the flesh.
Doesn't too much matter which one Jace shuts off for the next turn, so we'll just hit the Opportunist with that. Still trying to tell if our opponent's on the poison counter game plan. They could just be on the kind of sacrificial fodder game plan that goes along with Morbid Opportunist.
Our greater plans.
A second Opportunist, so definitely looking to refill their hand that way. All right, land number 5 from us. Let's turn off one of those Opportunists.
You can be made to obey.
Had the option to draw with Jace there, but kind of want to just keep him around as a little bit of a distraction. We've got some card selection in our hand, and my plan is to eventually get this Geistflame fired up with an Arcane Bombardment. Do they have a response to that? No, so we'll bounce that. Fizzle the combat research, since it no longer has a target on the board. And our opponent can get in at Jace for 1.
You don't understand what's important.
We are technically down a card, but still very much in control of this game. Battlefly Swarm returns. And Reality Chip. Let's get a Prologue going here just to cycle that away. If we're going to proliferate, then I would love for them to have a poison counter. Abrade, a good pickup. Just trying to think if it makes sense to do this now. No, let's Augury first. We can always use Abrade on our next turn. Oh, Invoke the Winds. Yes, let's get some free counters here. Land number 6. That means we're ready for Bombardment whenever that shows up. Let's do Invoke the Winds. Let's just take Reality Chip. We'll get some counters. It'll be a decent blocker. Jace can hit the Battlefly Swarm, and so far, not in too much trouble. Okay, Infernal Grasp will take care of their own Reality Chip. Triggers both opportunists and gives them a nice 2-card bump in their hand. Well, I was hoping for an outside scenario where we get Jace to just mill our opponent out in one go, but looks like they're going to keep devoting a little bit of attention to him. Ah, the old Vengeful Strangler is here. Now let's Abrade and get rid of one of those opportunists. That will trigger the remaining opportunist. Net our opponent a card. We will then remove 3 counters and take care of the second one. Use Jace on the Strangler. Leave our opponent with just the 1/1 flyer. No one left behind. That will bring the Reality Chip back onto the board. And they will immediately put that over onto the Strangler. Opponent now able to play off the top of their deck. Wonder if they're looking for some sort of combo finish here.
What you're thinking won't work.
Has yet to be seen. Alright, we pick up a Blast Zone. We're getting close to the point where we can start exiling off the top with Reservoir. Let's do one more turn where we plus Jace on a creature. We'll see if we can draw into Bombardment. Probably should be exiling, but I would hate to lose that enchantment off of the top when that is definitely going to get us back into this game. Alright, opponent hits us with Invoke Despair. So now we're going to have to watch out for the multiple copies of that card that will inevitably follow. Opponent finally going to hit us for 2. Let's use Reservoir and take care of one of those Battleflies while we can. Going to hang on to this Consider. We'll take 1 from the Battlefly. Looks like the Strangler is a 2-cost thing. Let's get a counter on Blast Zone. That'll be potentially a way to get rid of that. Going to keep this Consider in case we draw into Bombardment here. Alright, well, I think let's sacrifice this Blast Zone. Take care of both of those permanents and take away one of those methods of card advantage for our opponent. And we'll use the remaining counter on Geistflame Reservoir. One of the remaining counters on this Battlefly Swarm. Alright, we just need to draw into a finisher here. Opponent with Morbid Opportunist number 3. Alright, it's just a mountain, but that does enable us to start looking at the top of our deck. We can cast anything we find. Except for this mountain. Alright, let's get another Jace down. Well, hold on. Let's have a look here. We are at 41 cards, 8 things in the graveyard. Let's just plus Jace for now. Not enough things to get the draw 3 ability.
Organic minds are easily quelled.
Opponent gonna put some counters on the blast zone of their own. Alright, well, you served us well, Geistflame. Wonder if our opponent thought Jace was on 3 as well, but I think Jace is going to help us out a little bit here. I mean, that's definitely a play I would do, is the only reason I say that. Let's mill ourselves, draw a card, work our way up to this graveyard threshold that will let us draw even more. I might as well get that island down. Yeah, let's just keep it going. Opponent will sacrifice Waterfront District, drawing them a card. Oh, into Ashnod. Okay. Makes much more sense now with all of the early kind of sacrificial lamb creatures that they were playing with. All right. Let's mill them and draw ourselves a card.
I know where to find all the answers.
Let's go ahead and consider here. Still have enough left over to bombard and cast afterwards if we find it. All right, we're getting closer, I can tell. As the opponent powers up their blast zone number 2. Okay, well now Jace is down. Opponent left with an Ashnod and 4 cards. Alright, we've got 10 turns. I think we can do this. Opponent with yet another Vengeful Strangler. There's Bombardment, finally. Finally, my savior is here. Let's fire off a Fading Hope on old Ashnod over there. Let's see what we can pull up. We've already got Consider for our opponent's turn. Which is a good thing, too, as we pick up just Fading Hope. I guess we'll keep Fading Hope. It's another instant. Opponent replays Ashnod. Fair enough. Vengeful Strangler, back again for more. And Takenuma, so they will channel that, mill a few cards. They're going to get back the reality chip. Immediately play that down so they can start playing off the top of their deck again. Well, let's consider. We get Play with Fire. Let's take care of Ashnod. All right, opponent sees the writing on the wall. Good game. All right, had to stretch after that last one. If you can get Arcane Bombardment going, it is great tool for coming back. Let's get some lands going here for ourselves. We got Xander's Lounge. Guardian of New Benalia. I've been seeing this pop up more on the ladder a bit lately. The indestructible effect that it has is really annoying for control opponents to work with. Opponent will get in for 2 here. Not worth abrading at this point. Let's get Blast Zone. Let's get Blast Zone going. Pass it back. Another payoff for our Proliferate effect. Okay, opponent gonna Sokenzan, sensing we don't have too much going on here. Well, that is fine. They're probably gonna enlist that last one. Get a little scry on the top of the deck. Interesting. So opponent keeps 2 cards on the top as we get hit for 4. Still sitting on a handful of 5 cards, too. I see. Burn down the house. So I was thinking we may have just had to fire off Burn Down the House in the hopes of taking care of those tokens and then have a second one here. But I think now what we can do is make some devil tokens and do some blocking. Make the combat math that much more difficult for our opponent. Just a small advantage over trying to sweep there. Alright, we saw our opponent discard Portal to Phyrexia as they play this Fable here. They will enlist onto the Guardians. They're definitely going to scry. Puts 2 on the bottom, which you love to see. Let's block with... Let's just put all of these devils in front of there. This is the delayed blast fireball of the sweeper world. Get some triggers here. I would love to get rid of this goblin, and then we'll point the other one at the remaining token. Experimental Augury. Us sitting at 13. Let's see what we can draw with this lounge. Big score, but we can't quite play it yet. Alright, opponent's going to draw and discard. Strike that, reverse it. We're going to try to set ourselves up here for a big score. Oh, they found the animation spell. Alright, Portal to Phyrexia. So they're not going to get any targets from us, but that does mean they're going to be able to recur all of their most annoying stuff. Let's let them scry here and make some decisions, thinking they're going to keep this Portal to Phyrexia around with an Abrade in our hand. Okay, Portal down. We drop to 10. How do we get out of this? Let's see what we can pick up with this big score, discarding Blast Zone. Play with Fire and a Stormcarved Coast. Alright, well, I want Fable to flip over before we make any rash decisions. Opponent down to 3 cards now. Fondling their graveyard lovingly. Invoke Justice. Oh, no. Puts it all on the Guardian. As Phyrexian Portal returns to pester us. Well, we've got a couple of options. As our opponent scries again. Unfortunately, none of them are in our hand at the moment. That'll bring the Guardian to 7, drop us to 3. Let's go looking for a way to solve this problem. Oh, there's 2 of the things I was thinking of. All right, Guardian, it's just indestructible. It's not hexproof, so I think this will work. Invoke the Winds. Sure. Yeah. Too many counters on these things. Let's get rid of Play with Fire while it's still our opponent's turn. That way when we steal this Guardian, we won't have to deal with too much. We will untap it, thankfully, to be able to block with it. Opponent, any creatures down there? No. Just the Fable. And I don't think any creatures from us, right? Yeah. So Portal kind of blanking right now. All right, well, let's sit on their Guardian. Opponent will invoke Fable. and try to put some counters on this creature. Well, we are still big enough to block that all day long. Opponent realizing that as well. Prologue to Phyresis for us. Okay, well, great thing about having the biggest creature on the board. We can fire off a quick burn down the house. Opponent loses just creature tokens, so nothing for them to get back, and they scoop it up. Close one. Good game.